getting really good feedback from residents, and also we have all the RAs involved as well, because they're required to be part of RHA, and we're allowing them to get stalls as well. And so we haven't put it to the test yet, but we'll see. Our first meeting is next Sunday, and I'm hoping that that helps bring attendance in.
Thank you. Now we have Nicholas.
So with ours, we actually, our attendance for our people, so we have around 55 to 60. We have representatives from each hall, and it's actually like mandatory that they do show up because we do like track the attendance. And so if people start missing meetings, then, you know, we reach out to them and find out why. And as far as like incentives, we try and make the meetings fun. We do have food sometimes and stuff like that. And this year, we're actually changing it up a bit. In the past, we used to have an RA from each hall, designated as like an RHA RA, that would serve as kind of the middleman and also bring them to the meetings. But now we've cut that out, and we're just encouraging all the RAs to attend and working directly with representatives from each hall. So we'll kind of see how that differs this year and how that works out.
Thank you, Nicholas. Next is O.
Hi, so at Sam Houston State University for RHA, we do that point system, but instead of giving them prizes, the winning top hall council that gets the most points, they get a plaque or a banner to put in their dorm to say that they're the best hall for that year. And then we take a picture of them so we can put it in a book, and they can have like a fun activity and memories like, oh yeah, we won this year and that year, because who doesn't like a good competition? And another thing to have like members come and know about it is that we partnered with NRHH, our sister organization, and the RAs to talk about members coming in and going into the committees and doing activities to change the school and policies, so they feel like they're doing something about it.
Thank you. So far, we've heard a lot about sort of recognition systems for getting people to come to meetings, and also sort of jazzing up the meetings in certain ways. But next, I think we have Nicole.
Hi everyone again. Something else that a way to jazz up the meetings that my RHA tried. Have you all heard of like the sports brackets, like for football and basketball and whatnot? Well, we did that for like election meetings or meetings where we had a lot of legislation, and instead of like sports, we chose like animals or like some type of food. Until like after every piece of legislation or after every positional election, we would move on to the next thing in the bracket. So at the end, we'd have like the two types of animals or something, and that was like something simple that people liked, and it helped break up the business components of our meetings.
That sounds really fun. Thank you. One quick question I wanted to post to everybody on our list. Are your meetings closed or open? Who is invited to show up to your general meetings? For us, even though we have voting delegates, the meetings aren't closed. Anyone on campus could actually come to a meeting and speak. They might not necessarily get voting rights, but they would be able to speak at the meeting. So posing that question to you all, are your meetings open, closed? Who's allowed to come? Just put an X. I saw Nicholas first.
So ours are open to every resident in the hall because they're considered all members of URHA, but the senators who are representatives from each hall are the only ones who can have voting rights as well as speak, but they can yield their speaking rights to anybody who is a part of their hall. We also have resident assistant association liaisons who have speaking rights, as well as the NRHH liaison who has speaking rights. But those two liaisons unfortunately don't have voting rights. So that's how we handle that.
Thank you. Connor?
So we have two different meetings. We have our General Assembly, which, like I said before, is open to anyone who lives on campus. And then we have our Senate meetings that are just for the NRHH representative, our RHA committee chairs, and the Hall Council presidents or an executive member if they can't attend. So those are the ones that are required for those. And for our General Assembly, we can also have like CAs, hall directors, and NRHH attend those as well. So both of ours are open. Our Senate, obviously, the only people who have speaking and voting rights are those Hall Council presidents, NRHH, and the committee chairs, but it is still open for others to attend and listen in on the information, but they can't like speak or anything. But that's it.
Thank you. Tara? Everybody sees that in chat. From Tara, our senators and our 5 interns are required to attend every meeting. Senators have the voting and speaking rights, but all of our meetings are open except for election nights. And that's fairly valid. That point about the election nights is especially poignant because we've also talked about that a lot in our exec. So far as like if we should not allow certain people to come on that night. But next is Jasmine.
Hi. So at our general meetings are definitely open to everybody, and we don't really vote on anything. So everybody is like basically available to provide input. And then if our exec board isn't full, we invite prospective exec members to our like more official meetings, but exec meetings and stuff.
Thank you. O, you had something to say?
What? Our meetings are open and closed. It's open because we let everyone come in and listen and talk. Of course, all of the voting rights are given to the Hall Council presidents and representatives. And it's considered kind of closed because we have an arrangement of tables where 2 representatives of each Hall Councils are allowed to sit down, and then we have the peanut galleries for the other members who wish to listen and they want to participate. They can contact one of me or the other e-boards to do the activities of the month.
Sort of a follow-up to the last question, but is there a lot of people in the peanut gallery? Do a lot of people who don't have voting rights end up coming to the meetings?
The ones that are really interested, yeah, they do come. It depends on the kind of activity we have on each month. Like just recently, we had a welcoming party called Party in the Pit. A lot of people came to that one. And this new coming month in September, we don't really have a big one. It's more of a philanthropy thing. So not a lot of people are coming for that one. So it really depends and switches off and on what kind of activities we're doing.
Okay, thank you. So we've talked a little bit about this topic before, but next question is, does anyone do leadership development in your meetings? And some of us have already said that we do. So if so, who plans the leadership development and who executes it? How often is it? And do people like it? Is it successful? Talking about the leadership development our meetings. Lorenzo?
So we actually haven't had the meeting where we did leadership development yet, but we have like had a meeting where we invited the RA so we can come test it out and get a little bit of feedback on it. But we've planned it so the leadership development meetings will kind of switch off. One month it will be the exec board doing it. Another month we're going to invite grad students in who work for housing to come do it. And then we want to get some of the delegation to help to run the leadership development meetings with our help. And a couple things that we've done or we have planned is one is a leadership cafe that we've got during that we learn about at SWCR, where you learn the different types of leaders and how that affects your organization.
Thank you. Nicholas?
So what we do is we have a committee specifically set for organizational development, and they go ahead and they create these development pieces that we do either before or during our meetings, sometimes during socials on off days. And they go ahead and put these on with the help of our vice president of marketing and development. And during that time and then after those development pieces, they go ahead and get feedback from the senators, residents, RAs, pretty much anybody who's involved in those as to what they learned, what they got from it, and whether or not that was the intended outcome. And then they go ahead and use that feedback to improve on the next piece that they create.
That's great. Thank you. Emily, sorry, I skipped you.
That's okay. So at my host institution, when I was an RHA president, I had the graduate interns who worked for housing come in, and I think they gained as much from doing different leadership presentations with my general body members. I think they gained as much from it as my members did. So it was definitely great to work with these students who are learning a lot about things that are relevant to RHA as a whole. So, yeah.
Thank you. Alicia and Nisha?
So something that our RHA did last year, we paired with a learning community on campus, and we basically conducted an RA interview and resume workshop. So basically in one room we had our RHA and NRHA advisors critiquing resumes for the hall council members, and then in another room we had hall directors conducting interviews, RA interviews with our hall council members, basically getting them ready because of a lot of our members do apply to be an RA.
Thank you. Next question. Who runs your general meetings? And if you know, for instance, if it's you yourself, how do they plan them? For instance, at our school, at the University of Oklahoma, I don't actually plan the meetings, but I know that is the case in some other places. But yeah, put an X in the chat. Connor?
So for our General Assembly meetings, all of us kind of, in our exec meetings, we assign different portions of the meeting that we will talk about. So if we have an application out for hall council, then our hall council coordinator will obviously talk about that. Or if we have committee chair applications, our vice president will talk about that. So they create the PowerPoint slides, and I just put them all together, and then we present our different slides over the things that we talk about. So I guess it's kind of like a collective way to run those meetings. But
Sophie?
Hi. So I'm from the University of Oklahoma, and for our general council meetings, I'm the vice president, and I'm the person who plans and executes those meetings. And in order to plan them, we have a set agenda that's stayed fairly consistent for the last few years. And that agenda essentially serves as the base for the way our meetings are run. We start off with roll call announcements from our executive board, and then we move into any old business that we had from previous meetings, new business that people feel they want to bring to the floor, which is typically supposed to be submitted the week before, but oftentimes is not, and is brought to the floor the day of the meeting, as I'm sure you all know and have seen happen. And then afterward, there's oftentimes a discussion portion in which people bring up any concerns that they have And then we move into announcements before the close of the meeting. It typically takes about an hour and a half. That's the time we have set for the meeting, and occasionally they finish earlier.
Thank you. And Nicholas.
Did you say me? Sorry, you kind of cut out there for a second.
Yeah, I did. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah. So ours are are run by the main officers. So the four main officers basically will run the meeting. The president essentially leads, and then at different parts at our weekly officer meetings, we'll talk about and plan the meeting. And then if, say, like a certain officer, if it's their event, then they'll talk about that event specifically. And then if there are other people coming in to talk, then the president will just kind of run that.
Thank you. So now we're going to see how many more we can get through before our time's up. But what are some ways to keep your members involved in the meeting and not overload them with information that may be boring? Basically, how do you balance getting necessary information out to your members while still making meetings fun and interesting? So again, what specifically do you do at your schools to make the meetings more interesting? We've heard the bracket idea from Nicole, which I liked a lot, but let's hear some more. Just put an X in the chat. Could be anything from snaps to anything else. Molly?
Yeah, so we have kind of like it was snaps at No Frills. We have what we call brag bags, and so like throughout the meeting you can write like little notes about someone, and then we read them all at the end of the meeting, and it really like makes everyone laugh sometimes. And if something like funny happened during the meeting, like we can like just like look back on it, and it's kind of fun. Like it's ongoing through the meeting, and then we just read them all at the end.
Thank you. Ian asserts that Parley Pro is fun in itself. Thank you, Ian. Next question. How do you get new members oriented and comfortable at meetings? That's something that's especially sort of daunting for us because we run our meetings in Parley Pro. Not the strictest Parley Pro, but people still feel confused a lot. Our placards have info on the back, usually, and like sometimes we make an effort to pull the people aside and like team them up with like more veteran members, but it doesn't always happen that way. So how do you all make people oriented and comfortable at the meetings? Just put an X. Nicole?
Okay, so something my RHA tried a lot last year is we started every meeting with a small icebreaker. So even if they weren't sure what was going on with Parley Pro, they were at least more comfortable since they met someone new. And then it wasn't like a large group. We usually split it up in like often groups of 5, and it was just like a random question or to have people mingle for a few minutes. And then we tried and for the first few weeks explain Parley Pro as we went. And with our system of having like a few reps from each hall there every week, we encouraged them to help explain to the other new members of their hall as the meeting went on.
Thank you, Nicole. So current business chairs.
So something that we do is like we open up our doors 15 minutes early, and then we play music, and then the executive board members, we kind of just like roam around the room and get acquainted with all the hall council people that come, just to get like our connections like built with them and be friendly with them, because the hall council members are really friendly with each other, but sometimes they feel like a barrier between like the executive board and them. So we just try to like walk around and get acquainted with them. And then we also adopted the whole roll call question thing. So we ask them something like, what's your Harry Potter house? And then everyone answers during roll call.
Cool, thank you. Oh?
I don't know if there's something that's considered, but at Sam Houston, each board member tries to go to all council's own like meeting, and we try to like communicate our feelings, and then we get to know them, they get to know us, since we are going to each other's meetings. And we of course do icebreakers on our first meeting, so then everyone can join in on the suffering of doing icebreakers.
Thank you. Next is Trent. Okay, Trent typed it out. Trent, this is from Trent. Our first meeting this year is going to be a social function. I have an exam the same night as our first meeting, so the rest of the exec board is going to run through the basics of Parley Pro and then do some practice. After that, everyone is going to sort of mingle. Trent, I think that's pretty similar to the way that we're going to do our first meeting. It'll start off, as Sophie said earlier, she's going to lead it at the University of Oklahoma. There's going to be like a small presentation by me on sort of like what RHA is and like all the facets of our RHA. And then it's going to go into sort of an info fair where they can look at all the different opportunities about RHA, like all the different things that we do, like our subcommittees, the hall councils, all those sort of opportunities for them. Swooker, Ian will be there talking about Swooker, that sort of thing. They'll have a chance to look at everything that everybody's doing and sort of pick what they want to be involved with. Molly?
So this is kind of off the topic of like just general body meetings, but in reference to like the first meeting, do y'all do any sort of like training or like get together before the first general body meeting, or is that the first time that like all the hall like kind of executives come together?
Speaking for the University of Oklahoma, the hall presidents are on our e-board, our exec board. So they have trained with us beforehand in our sort of fall training already. So we've already worked with them, and the hall council board, like the hall council individual boards haven't been decided yet. So that's how ours is. From the business chairs?
Something that, well, basically our first General Assembly is, yes, when they're meeting all for the first time. But that weekend following, we have our President's Retreat, where all the Hall Council presidents get acquainted. Then the following weekend, we have Vice President and Treasurer's Retreat, where they all get acquainted. And then the following week, we have just like a Hall Council training day, where everyone comes together. And then during all of those sessions, we have like team builders and icebreakers and stuff like that.
Thank you. And Nicholas?
So we have like a three-part system. It starts in the spring when our senators are elected, and we have a big training day called Nuts and Bolts, where we train them in pretty much everything that they're going to do in URHA. And then over the course of the spring semester, they're trained by their outgoing senator, everything that they're going to do within their halls and within their RHC. And then when they come back before the semester starts, they move in early and they have a week of training for their job over the course of the year called Leadership Week, in which they go through a mock meeting and mock committee meetings and all sorts of different scenarios to go ahead and help prepare them for the year.
Awesome. Does anyone else have anything they want to say on that topic? We sort of went in specifically into what makes your first meetings different and sort of engaging in their own right. Going once, going twice, going 3 times. Seeing as it's 8:56, I think I'm going to turn it back over to Connor to wrap up the meeting.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Stephen, for doing a great job facilitating this for me. And thank you all for all of your great insight. I hope I was able to reflect it well in the minutes. I don't usually take minutes, so this is new for me as well. So I'm hoping that everything looks good. Per usual, me and my forgetful self forgot to record at the beginning, and Kaisha started recording like halfway through. So the recording won't be, that I put on my YouTube channel, won't be the full chat, but I will have something up there for y'all to go and reference. I'm hoping that the minutes are detailed enough so that you can look back at the minutes and see. As always, if you're going through the minutes and you see that someone from a particular university had a great idea or they do something that you really like and you want to talk to them more about it, feel free to either post in the group me, ask them for their information, or just come to me and I can connect y'all. I'm so thankful for the 2 RBD members from COPR for joining us and for speaking up and letting us know how things are done in a different region in COPR. If y'all have any questions for them, I can always get you their contact information as well. But this is the end of our chat. I can stay on a little bit after, but we do have to get off of this chat code because Kaisha needs it for a meeting. So if you have something that you need to talk with me about, just let me know real quick and I can get on another Zoom code. If not, I hope you all either had a great first week of classes or are going to have a great first week of classes starting tomorrow. Yeah, there's the emails right there in the chat if you want to get those real quick. But yeah, have a great rest of your night. And if you're starting classes for the first time tomorrow, for the first time this semester tomorrow, good luck to you. Yeah, good night, everybody.
Well, it looked like no one had questions. That went well.
Yes, that was definitely wonderful. Thank you all for coming.
You're welcome.
It's always great to be supported by my board, even whenever there's confusion with all the Emilys.
That was awesome because then I was like, oh God, he's talking to her. But then I was like, wait, he wasn't.
I was definitely talking to you, and then and she started talking, and I was like, okay, we'll go with it.
It'll be fine. I just like that we both made the same face because when I realized it, I was like, ugh! And she did the same thing whenever you called on me.
Yeah. Kaisha, if you want to stop the recording and then
Oh, yep.